Zay in the house. Let's head into the Nerdverse. What happens when your identity is destroyed in a single night? When everything that once gave you a place in the world ceases to exist, and the only person left in your life is precisely the architect of your personal hell. That question is not born from comfort. It is born at the very bottom of the abyss. And perhaps that is the perfect starting point to understand one of the most complex minds in Japanese fiction, Sasuke Uchiha. Before we continue, go ahead and leave a like if you enjoy this kind of deeper analysis. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos, and comment below what you've always thought about Sasuke. Hero, villain, or something far more complex than that. This engagement helps the channel grow a lot. Today, the goal is not to judge Sasuke as good or evil. That question is far too simple for a character who was forced to kill who he was just to keep existing. What we're going to do here is dive into the psyche of someone whose identity was shattered by an impossible to process. Tromand, who spent his entire life trying to rebuild a self he could inhabit without pain. But to understand the collapse, we need to go back. Before the tragedy, before the hatred, before the revenge. Konoha was never just a peaceful village. At its core, it always functioned as a military state. A system created after constant wars, whose primary objective was to produce highly specialized human weapons, ninjas, and within this machine, the Uchiha clan was the sharpest blade, and also the most unstable one. The Uchihas did not live integrated. They lived isolated, monitored, feared. A clan too powerful to be ignored and too dangerous to be fully trusted. Konoha's fear of the Uchihas was not irrational. It was political. It is within this context that the so-called curse of hatred emerges. But here, it does not need to be understood as something supernatural. It can be read as the accumulation of centuries of political, social, and emotional trauma. A clan marked by loss, exclusion, and internal conflict. The Sharingan is born from extreme emotions. Deep love, when broken, transforms into equally deep hatred. This means that the clan's greatest source of power was also its greatest risk. For a system that values stability, a group that operates at emotional extremes is a constant threat. And it is within this scenario that Sasuke is born. Even before the massacre, something was already broken. From an early age, Sasuke grows in Itachi's shadow, an absolute prodigy, the pride of the clan, the constant reference point. While Itachi received admiration, Sasuke learned very early on the weight of comparison. He wasn't insufficient, but he was constantly treated as the one who hasn't gotten there yet. Psychologically, this creates something very common, a chronic sense of inferiority mixed with deep admiration. Sasuke loved his brother, but he also felt small beside him. His father's attention came in minimal doses and was almost always conditioned on performance. This builds a fragile emotional foundation. Where personal worth depends exclusively on results, it's not about who you are, but how much you prove. When love feels conditional on performance, affection stops being a refuge and becomes a demand. Then comes the night that destroys everything. A 7-year-old child is forced to watch his own family be murdered by the person he loved most. No explanations, no answers, no choice. In a single night, Sasuke's world loses all emotional logic. Love turns into hatred. The hero becomes the villain. Safety becomes terror. And Itachi doesn't just kill the clan. He forces Sasuke to relive that scene thousands of times through This detail is fundamental, because here we're not just talking about trauma, but about the repetition of trauma. Sasuke's mind becomes his own prison. From a psychological standpoint, Sasuke shows clear signs of post-traumatic stress disorder. Flashbacks, fixation on the event, isolation, difficulty, trusting, a profound shift in beliefs, and an identity frozen in the past. That night, something dies inside him. But it's not just his family. It's the authentic self, the child Sasuke, the one who wanted recognition, who dreamed of belonging, who admired his brother does not survive, to avoid being completely annihilated by pain. The mind does what it can to survive. It reduces existence to a single purpose, a single goal capable of giving meaning to chaos, revenge. But here lies the central point. Revenge is not something Sasuke does. It is who he is. Without it, he doesn't know how to exist. While Naruto seeks strength to protect and connect, Sasuke seeks power to anesthetize himself, to stop being the child who felt unbearable pain. And that is exactly why Naruto becomes so unbearable to him. They are not just rivals, they are mirrors. Both orphans, both lonely, both rejected. But while Naruto responds to trauma with connection, Sasuke responds with isolation. Every friend Naruto makes, every bond he builds, is a living refutation of Sasuke's life philosophy. Killing Naruto was never just about strength. It was about destroying the mirror that showed everything Sasuke could have been and believed he could no longer be. Kakashi appears as someone who could have changed this path. A mentor who also carries profound losses. But while Kakashi learns to survive through bonds, Sasuke chooses the opposite path. For him, friendship is weakness. Affection is risk. Love is a threat. Sakura represents exactly what he lost on the night of the massacre: care, innocence, affection without demands. And precisely because of that, he rejects it. To be loved means to have something to lose. And Sasuke cannot bear the idea of losing anyone else. When Naruto begins to evolve rapidly, something psychologically crucial happens. Sasuke transfers onto Naruto the feelings he once had toward Itachi. The sense of being left behind, of not being enough, of always being one step behind. The rivalry stops being healthy. It becomes obsession. When Itachi reappears, all the trauma is reactivated. Sasuke is humiliated, defeated, and forced to relive the massacre once again. The result is physical and emotional collapse, coma, helplessness, despair. That's when Orochimaru enters the picture. He doesn't create Sasuke's darkness. He simply offers a narrative that makes sense to someone broken, absolute power in exchange for everything. Sasuke accepts because, to him, there is nothing left to lose. When he finally kills Itachi, it was supposed to be the end, the relief. The moment when everything would make sense, but nothing comes. No peace, no comfort, only silence. And then the truth emerges. Itachi was not the villain. He was the sacrifice. Sasuke's entire life was built on a lie. Psychologically, this generates traumatic derealization. Reality becomes too unbearable to accept. Hatred changes targets. It stops being individual and becomes structural. Sasuke decides to destroy Konoha not out of pure malice, but out of despair. If Itachi's sacrifice was made for the village, then the village must pay. It's distorted logic, but coherent within a shattered mind. The final confrontation at the Valley of the End is not physical. It is philosophical. Isolation through power versus connection through vulnerability. Control versus acceptance. Hatred versus empathy. And the turning point is not Naruto's victory. It is Sasuke's defeat. A defeat that does not annihilate, a shared defeat. They're broken, armless, exhausted. They're finally equals. Sasuke learns, perhaps for the first time, that value does not come from absolute power, but from shared vulnerability. After that, he leaves, not as punishment, but as an existential pilgrimage. By helping villages, protecting people, and creating new memories, Sasuke begins to rebuild his mental map. He doesn't erase the trauma, he integrates it. He transforms pain into vigilance, hatred into responsibility, suffering into purpose. And the cycle closes when he becomes a father. The man who lost everything now has to build something. Imperfect, distant, flawed, but real. By choosing to protect his family, Sasuke breaks the curse of hatred that defined his clan for generations. In the end, he becomes the synthesis of all his versions: the traumatized child, the relentless avenger, and the man who lives on the margins to protect the world from the shadows. Sasuke's journey is not about easy redemption. It is about rebuilding a fractured identity. And perhaps the final question is not about him, but about us. Which identities are you carrying that no longer serve you? Which versions of yourself need to die so that the true you can finally be born? If this video made you reflect, comment below what impacted you most in Sasuke's journey. Leave a like, share it with someone who loves Naruto, and subscribe to the channel. That makes all the difference. So this kind of content can keep existing